Yeah, and I forgot my sound effects. I know you hate that.
But
I know you hate it, but I left it in the house. So,
just need better sound effects.
well, I guess I could run in there and get them.
I think we'll be fine. How is everyone?
My hair's all messed up. I've been working. Hello, Jack. How are you? Yeah, I got too much stuff to do, Steve. You want to come on here and knock some of it out for me?
I got plenty of my own.
Yeah, it's been hectic, man. I can't get caught up. There's your neighbor. There you go.
Hello, everyone. Hey, Dave. Hey, Rhonda. Good to see you, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful Easter Sunday, however you may celebrate it.
My text is backwards. I set this up every time, and it does not save the settings. All right.
Yeah.
Had to see another. It cooled off down here, Steve. I think you sent some of that weather down here because it was actually like hoodie weather the past couple of days in the mornings.
Well, it's warmed up here. It was actually warmer outside than in the house and the shop. So that's saying something. And so spring was this weekend. I hope everyone enjoyed it here in Minnesota. It's going to be summer by Tuesday. It's been fun. Get those air conditioners ready. Yeah.
No, Brian, it's just one of these days I'm going to get me a place where I can set this stuff up and leave it. But it's like every time I disconnect everything and connect it back, it wants me to go through all the settings. You would think it would save it, but either I'm missing something or it doesn't. I'm not sure which. But yeah, happy Easter, everybody. About forgot. Got up this morning and did the Easter thing, came home, and I have been out here grinding, trying to get stuff done. So trying to stay caught up on my stuff over there. Steve keeps getting me behind. I'm gonna blame it on him.
I take no responsibility for anything whatsoever.
So have you got your A30 together yet?
Yeah, I sent you a picture
I thought
half
you
hour
had.
ago.
Well, I've been wide open.
Well, an hour ago. Just before dinner, I put it together, and I even I put it next to the A20 as well to try to see the comparison of the two. There, I mean, other than the module that's slightly larger and a different color, you'd be hard pressed to tell the two apart. So
Yeah, it looks a lot like it. I do need to know if the legs are the same on the 20 and the 30. I
yeah,
built me a
well,
jig kit. I built me a jig kit for the 30 and it works. So if it fits both of them, that would even make it even better.
yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'll even check it against the 5 watt version that I've got, the frame. And but yeah, the 5 watt does have some slightly different. The gantry's a little bit lighter
Yeah.
weight, but the 20 and the 30, it looks like they have the exact same setup as far as the extrusion and the plates and everything. So
Cool.
I wouldn't be surprised if they were identical.
There's old Decline. That's he helps me on jobs, and he's getting into laser. And he did his first tumbler last night. Of course, we're not going to say that he had to call me, but let's just say he got it done. He got it done. So he's getting into that. Brian, what's that you got going on there? That's what we're hoping anyway, isn't that right, Steve?
Yeah, everybody coming out with their more powerful machines and such. I'm I've heard it called the the laser race or the laser arms race or whatever. I mean, everybody's just trying to one up and outdo each other, and so um, that's good to a point, as long as they're actually putting some effort into making them solid and not just throwing a few features on the thing and hoping it works. Because I think we both experienced somewhere you get the machine, and you kind of go, wait a minute, this doesn't work right. So
Yeah, yeah. Some folks tend to rush them out, I think, before they work all the bugs out. And then, of course, me and
mhm.
you usually find the bugs and figure out what the cure is for them.
Yeah.
I know that's what happened with a couple of the most recent machines that we got. We found some issues and sent to them. But so far, I'm gonna be honest with you. So far, the Atomstack, the only issue that I have found is it scared me when I first went to try to do a burn test because it. Oh my goodness! I thought I'd cut a hole in the table. I had to move my workpiece and make sure I hadn't cut a hole in the table.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe Acer will hit us up because I've had several people tell me they want to see the V35 versus the A30 and see who wins in that battle. So I
Well,
would love to be able to do that.
I know Acer's got the V35 that's shipping now, but they're also working on a Gen 2 machine that you can go and find on their website if you dig. It's got some interesting features, so that will be interesting to see. Um, yeah, and Brian, yeah, the X Tool did their launch of the P2, their video anyway, and so some interesting information came out about that. I've watched a few other review videos on it. Um, I'd still like to see one. I think if my current impression of it is if you have a solid use for either the pass through auto feed or that 3D Z height adjustment, then it might be worth it. Otherwise, I'm not sold on it yet. Um, there's some things that kind of make me kind of concerned about it. So, but if I get my hands on it, maybe we'll see. But it's a lot of money they want for a 55-watt laser that's got a couple of cool features on it.
Yes, it is. Little higher price tag than I can swing right now. Anyway, uh, not for that work area and what Like I said, your machine, your workload and what you plan on doing needs to dictate what machine you get. And I just don't have a need for that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Brian, I've done tests with all my 20 watts. I haven't necessarily put them all in the same video, but it would be interesting to be able to do a 30-watt showdown. I wouldn't mind doing it. I can tell you this: I got to build another enclosure because my old faithful D1 is get because of my shortage of real estate in here. It's getting evicted, so it's gonna be permanently housed in the portable clack shack so that I don't have to move machines when I go to events. I can just drag the trailer, and I've got because it does good at events, and I've already got that enclosure set up to run it. So I'm not gonna. But yeah, this Atom
Yeah.
stack has definitely dethroned it, which the eights are already had. But
Yeah, I was impressed with the A20 when I fired it up, and so hopefully in the next couple of days I'll get the 30 fired up. Although I also put together the Sculptron S30 Pro Max, which is their 20-watt version. So I've got that to put through its paces as well, and I'm also finishing up the ASMR P1 work. Is doing a lot of that today. So number of things
yeah,
get moving on.
now I'm going to go ahead and tell you if you hadn't already. Make sure you got that file I sent you for that ASMR. Oh, I did have a guy from Germany sent me an email. He had the same issue, so I've sent that back to ASMR and let them know about it. But you
Sure,
will have to make some adjustments to the software.
sure. Yeah, yeah. I've already
Oh,
got that worked out and such. Andrew, 3D older 3D printer. Wondering about a replacement control board. Um, I'd have to look at that machine, Andrew. I I'm not 100% familiar with it, but if it's your typical XYZ uh, steppers, you could probably replace it with something very similar. You could probably get the control unit for like an Ender 3, and it would take a little bit of tweaking of your settings and your limits and such. But I would gather you should be able to get that working with. I don't know if you can find the exact one for the Sunlu, but if not, you should be able to work it off of another one similar to it because they're all using very similar stepper motors, and so it's just a matter of getting it driving them in the right directions and then calibrating them and configuring any end limits for them as well.
Whole lot of engineering going into that. Well, this is a good question. What's your thoughts on it? I'll let you go first because I think we probably share the same views on this.
Um, I would say at this point, unless someone's giving you a 5 watt or you've just got an extreme good deal on one, I would probably jump into at least 10 and if not a 20. When you start getting into the 20 and 30 watt, you're definitely gaining some speed, maybe a little extra cutting power, but you're probably also losing a little detail. So if you're looking to do a lot of engraving, if you're looking at the photorealistic type of engraving, that may suffer a little bit on the higher wattage machines. So, the 10 or 20 is going to do 90% of what a 30 can do. It's just going to do it a little bit slower, but you're still going to hold on to that detail. So I think a baseline, I wouldn't accept a laser less than 10 watt myself at this point, unless it just had some very unique niche kind of thing. So at that point, it's looking at features and price point for me. If there's specific features that that a laser has, and or if I'm looking to kind of stay within a price point, that's where I'd rate. But I would be looking in the 10 or 20 watt to get into it. How about you?
Yeah, I try out a few 5.5s. 5.5s are good, I guess. Tester machines, I guess I could say. If you're not confident that you can operate the software, and you just want something to play with to make sure that you can run the software, your financial risk is a lot less because you can get 5.5 watt machines really really cheap. But I think once you get in there and you learn how to work the software, you're going to be wanting more and more. So a 10, if you can swing it, if it's not too much as far as the money goes, I think a 10 is kind of the jump off point to get started. A 20s are great, 20s are awesome, but if you're not confident that you're going to be able to stick with it or whatever, if you're thinking that you may just try it for a while and get out of it, your financial risk is a lot less with a 10 watt. So that would kind of be what I base it on, because I know my buddy Klein, and he's in here watching. I started training him on a 5.5 watt and told him, I was like, take this home, figure out how to work it, and if you get discouraged and just say I can't do it, then we'll move on. But I think that's the 5 watts are kind of like having training wheels. It's couple of $100, you can get you one and get started and learn the fundamentals, but you're not going to be turning out a whole lot of work very fast with a 5.
Yeah,
So
I agree with that. With the one caveat of there's nothing worse than using the wrong tool for the job and then getting frustrated
oh
because
yeah,
of that.
oh yeah.
So knowing what a 5 watt could do, or knowing the limitations of a 5 watt and trying to make sure you can work that way, I think that's great. But some people just, you're trying to, if you're trying to cut down a sequoia with a pocket knife, you're going to get discouraged quick. So
Oh yeah, you're going to want to stick to just engraving with a 5.5. Cutting is not really, unless you're doing 3 mil. Uh, Cutting is not really something you're going to want to get into.
yeah, it can
Me
do it, but
personally, I think the 20s is where you need to start. Personally, I love them. Anything less than
well,
a 20 now, I just have a hard time working it. I'm gonna be honest, I'm
well,
spoiled.
I jumped in with a 60 watt CO2, years ago. So taking the step back to a 5 watt diode for me is like, What's this thing doing?
Yeah.
So
Well, I know I sent you some pictures today, but nobody else is aware of it. But I have the Mon port up and going, and it is working like a champ. There was a lot of upgrades I had to do to get it to where it was not a frustrating machine to work with, but I have got those done, and it's actually doing me a really good job now. So I've got hopefully within the next day or two, I'll get a video out with it. Some of my cool upgrades.
so here's a follow up kind of question to that. Would you go with a regular bed
Mm.
or jump into the extended right away?
Right away, no, don't until you know how you're going, what you're going to do, and what you need it for. I wouldn't drop any extra money. You may find that whatever your niche or your product is doesn't require the extended bed, and that save you about $200. Uh, I moved up to an extended not because you know I wanted to, but because you know how many stove covers I do, and it was just a pain trying to set that thing up and do those really large stove covers without the added workspace. So mine was more about a necessity, especially when Acer came out with a machine that had a 430 millimeter workspace. That just basically made it the perfect machine for those things because they fit in there perfectly. So
Yeah, I think the extended bed on these diode lasers, there's two schools of thought: is buy the biggest one you can right off the get go, but knowing how there's also the school of thought of buy the tool when you need it, not when you want it, and
yeah,
that's kind of part of it too. Because I I've held off from extending my diodes yet because I've got the larger CO2 out in the shop if I need it, and B, I I like the portability of the diodes as they are. They're about 2 foot square. They're easy to move around. They're easy to place on an item. And while I do have some need to extend one if I wanted to kind of do without my CO2 laser for some of this work, I wouldn't jump into it right away until I had an actual need for it. So I would hold off. I would, as especially just getting started. It's because there are some complexities to adding those rails as well. Unless you buy a kit from the get go that is that size, like the Niji, which also has its own complexities as well. Then there's
yeah,
things you got to jump in, and if you're struggling with it a little bit, then that's just going to add another complexity to it. Or like Brian said earlier, have you messed with a 3D printer before? Have you mastered that? If so, you've got all the patience in the world. Go for it.
yeah, yeah. The like I said, the work bed size is really one of those things that if you don't have larger things that you want to do, then it's not going to help you a whole lot. It doesn't make the machine faster. It doesn't make it cut better. There's a lot of other upgrades that I would probably say, unless you need that added space, do the air assist, do the cutting surfaces and the cameras and stuff like that first. And if you run out of toys to buy, then by all means go get yourself an extension kit. But the reason I did it, like I said, was for the stove covers because I got tired of having to pick a machine up and set it on top of something and trying to align it and get it right. And just happened upon the Acer was just the right size, so that worked out.
Yeah. And I like Ron's comment here. He's got buyer's remorse. He started with a 5, have a 10, and a regular bed. Now we want a 20 and an extended bed, and that's the
That's the way it
that's the
works.
well, that's the way it works. It's also it's hard right now because with all the companies trying to one up each other, um, you almost have to just be okay with having some buyer's remorse, but be happy that you finally jumped in and are doing something. And that's the other reason I say buy it when you need it, because if you need it, then you have a reason to get it. You won't be feeling so bad that you jumped in and now you could have got something better. But yeah, it's tough right now with all the upgrades and the new features and the higher power and the larger beds and everything coming out. It's almost you just have to do a little research, know that's going to be part about it, and just jump in eventually. And
Yeah. Do they make an extension kit for the LM2? Do they, Steve? Do you know?
I don't know if they have an official one, but I think some people have made their own. As long as you can get
Yeah.
compatible rails and longer belts, then you can adjust the software for it. But I know they have it for the LM3. I haven't paid as much attention to the LM2, unfortunately. Um, and for others like the Comgrow and such, they don't make a kit, but you can do it yourself with some extrusion rails and such. So
Yeah. I tell you, if I could take like four of the machines that I have and you have and like just pick parts of them and put them together, uh, man, there's some cool features. And if you could put all those features into one machine, it would be awesome. And I'm waiting on somebody to do that. I feel like somebody is, but right now it's like I like the Creality's automatic air assist, but then at the same time I like Niji's relay that turns on the air assist from Shop Air, and then Niji also has that M8 controllability, and then you've got the Acer, which I really wish I could figure out how to make that M7 relay work with it. I'm hoping that maybe the next version of Acer's machines will either come with a similar relay or be compatible because and just like with the LM3 with that automatic lights and automatic fan control, that was pretty cool. Uh,
yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff out there. What I don't like is if there's no manual override um, in both directions. And sometimes they do that just for ease of not making it complex or difficult, but for the user or for the programming and such. But yeah, it is. There's some cool features on a lot of them, and I think you'll see in newer gen lasers coming out this year. Seeing some of those things integrated better, the auto air assist, auto focusing, things like that on the diodes are going to be coming out more, and hopefully we'll get to see some of them.
yes, sir. Yeah, I was actually looking at some of the extrusions because, like with this Atomstack, I mean, you could technically, replace the extrusions, the wiring harness, and the belts, and you could make this thing huge because it's just 2040 extrusion. But you know, that's just one of those little things I was thinking about. I did have somebody ask me, and this might be something you want to look into, Steve, and that is if the A30 module will work on an A20. You might want to look at the power ratings and everything and the controllers and see if it's all the same or not.
Yeah, I think part of it's, I know the power brick is bigger. I think there's an extra 30 watts there of input power. I don't know how much it actually uses per se. But as far as the frame, I'm pretty sure they're almost identical. So, yeah, one thing I don't like though, I noticed tonight is they bury that laser, the plug that goes into the laser module. They bury it in there. That
Yeah.
you have to push on the wires or pull on the wires to get it out, and that's a big no no for me.
Well,
That's
I
how you
got
break wires
lucky.
and stuff.
Yeah, I used a pair of needle nose to try to get in there and push it best I could. And then I
Yeah,
used one of my little shish kebab wooden sticks to make sure it was pushed in all the way.
yeah,
But yeah,
pushing
they
it
could have
in is
done
one
better
thing,
on
but
that.
pulling it out, that's my concern when you need to work on it or such that I don't like having to pull on those wires. So
Yeah. All right, this is going to be for you, Steve. I don't run a CNC.
I I've played with OBS, but I've never had it hooked up well to anything with my CNCs. Um, so it I can't help you on that one per se. Um, hmm. Yeah, being open source and whatnot, and running with video. If your video card isn't doing the primary encoding, then your CPU takes over for it, and that could cause some issues. So maybe see if you can specify it to use your video card if you got it. That should free up your CPU. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's another somebody else talking about the P2.
Well, yeah, Mark, that's just it. Like I say, unless you are really wanting that auto feed feature, which is going to get you what about 23 inches wide by, I think they set up to six. Is it 6 8 feet long? 96 inches. Or that auto Z adjustment. I I'd be hard pressed to. If the Ohm Tech higher wattage, bigger build area, and I'm also concerned about that tiny chiller they've got in that P2. Um, it doesn't hold a lot of water. There's not a lot of room for a big compressor, so I'm concerned about water temps with that too. So, like I say, I'd love to get my hands on one and see what they're doing with some of that magic in there to make it work. But
Yeah, I do not.
yeah, I've looked at it. I've heard of it. I, there's so many other lasers that have a lot of those features in them already that um, other than the changing settings on the fly, that it's a great open source. So I think if you like tinkering with electronics and playing, yeah, I think it's fun. Or if you've really invested in your original X Tool D1, or even the D1 Pro, maybe. But yeah, I just there's so many other lasers that have most of the features I need into it that I like to tinker to a bit, and then I get frustrated and move on.
Yeah,
as
yeah.
as
That's
Clack knows, I send him messages all the time. I'm so annoyed at this thing.
what is it? I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh yeah, I saw it. But to be honest with you, if I was going to get that far off in the weeds trying to modify a machine, I would just dump the controller that they have in there altogether, and just probably just put another controller in there, and then. But you could like Steve said, that frame is not to me. It's not the most ideal frame anyway. So if I was going to spend that much time and effort into a machine, it wouldn't. That probably wouldn't be it. I mean, those are good machines out of the box. I like mine. I made a lot of money with mine. But as far as just throwing money at it, doing those kind of upgrades, I think that's a little far outside what I would want to do. Because like Steve said, I can get the Acer or some of the Atom stacks and some of the other machines and have a way more functionality than what that one has, and even have the ability to customize it even more. So just like I said, just not something I ever really wanted to get into. 20 by 20 work area. What's this? 20. Are we referring to 20 inches by 20 inches?
Um,
Needs you
Probably
close
not.
with the extensions.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of the extensions get you out to 30 plus, but you're still about 16 wide. Um, when you get into some of these areas, and speaking of that, Devil One, that's where if you've played around with one and you start tinkering, you can. There's plenty of people have been doing their homebrew CNCs and lasers for years. You can kind of take the gantry off of something and look how to modify it. Make it wider, make your rails longer, and play with the software to configure it to your size you want at that point. And that's where having something with a little more typical extrusion, like Atomstack uses fairly standard 20 by 40 extrusion, you could easily source some aftermarket rails for that if you wanted. Whereas the X tool far more proprietary. Even the Acer, with their style. Yeah, it's that if I'm going to start tinkering at that point, I'm probably going to go with something far more open source, kind of typical off the shelf rails and such. But
You're going to make fun of me, Steve, but guess what I had in my cart up until a few hours ago?
an 8-track.
No, 48-inch 2040 extrusions. I was considering it. I was considering making me a 4 foot by 4 foot laser using one of these other guys that I've got that I don't mind tearing apart, just to see if I could do it.
And you tell
Uh,
me you don't have room for a CNC.
well, I don't, but I was just thinking. I mean, this whole mount it to the wall thing. You know, if I wanted to do a 4 foot by 4 foot engrave, I technically could mount it to the wall and run it as long as you're not cutting.
Yeah,
I just was wondering what it would look like, a 4 foot by 4 foot laser.
I'd be
So
concerned about keeping it rigid and you know
yeah,
having enough precision throughout it.
yeah, but yeah, you can buy the extrusions, guys. If you're wanting, like I said, like she said, if you're wanting a 200, 20 by 20, you could go buy your extrusions and have them chopped down, and with a little bit of modification, you could have a 2 foot by 2 foot work area. Especially with a 2040 or either the 4040 extrusions, I don't think you'd have any problems with rigidness.
So
Yeah, I'll eventually get a CNC, bro. I mean, Steve stays on me about it. Somebody was asking about the switches earlier. I saw it
Daryl is
briefly.
asking. I don't make them. You were connected with the guy that sent
Yeah,
you
it's
the
Ronnie's his
y
name.
axis one, but
Yeah, Ronnie's his name. I think his Etsy shop is Laser Accessories. You can go look at my video. Uh, and I got a link to his shop down there. But he emailed me the other day and said that I must have done something because he'd sold quite a few after me and him had talked. But it's pretty awesome. I love it. It's just like my. Well, Brian, if I had the money, I would already have a building. But that's the kind of the killer of all dreams, I guess, is the fact that I don't have the money for a bigger building. I would love to have one, just not in the cards right now.
you gotta make more of those stovetop covers.
I don't got enough time. I got to retire. Well, if I can ever retire, I think I can crank up enough work. I'm having to turn jobs down and send them to Klein. I had Klein burning jobs for me now because I just ain't got time to do them. I mean, I'm sure he appreciates it, but it's pretty nice though because he's the only employee I've ever had that I can pay in tumblers and cutting boards. He said he'd rather make him an Amazon order and get the business discount on Amazon than give him cash.
Mm. Hey, whatever works.
Yeah, yeah, take a larger cut. No, I'm just trying to stay caught up, guys. Because like I said, when I get ready to retire in hopefully 2.5 years, I'm gonna rev it up really really wide open. Then the laser business is going to get a lot more, and so I am going to need more room for machines, and so I'm going to have to figure out something.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as Mark here. I maxed out my
What?
percentage of cover. So with the city, we can only have like a third of our lot that's non-permeable. So that's concrete or any structure, not including portable buildings like a shed or something. So yeah, I'm maxed out on that. So for me, I need to be better about utilizing my space a little better and maybe properly conditioning it in the winter. So I feel like working out there, but that's the
Well,
joy of living in the city.
we don't have those problems here. Uh, Pretty much anything goes. Uh, but I guess if I had it to where I had too much of a percentage of my lot taken up, it would be a really really big shop. But yeah, that's why I don't live in the city. Because if I decide I want another building, I'm just gonna go up there and cut some trees down and put one up.
Well, I've looked into it. They want a pretty penny for land out here unless I move way too far away from where I work. So I either need to
Oh,
quit work, which said I won't be able to afford the house, the land out in the country,
yeah.
or yeah. So
Uh,
Norbert, you're asking about the lens orientation. So generally, if you have the flat side is going to go down towards your material, and the curved side is going to go up. and that should be setting your focus properly on that, on the actual focus lens. On the cover lens, they should just be flat and not matter. But
Yeah, Brian said he's in the basement with plenty of exhaust. Yeah, if you had the whole house smelling like burnt wood or tumblers, or especially tumblers, those things
it's
smell.
not it's not
That
burnt
wouldn't be
wood.
good.
It's campfire fragrance. You know, it's like air
Hey,
freshener, right?
yeah. Hey, I had it. I had somebody ask me the other day how to, because I'd like literally done a job, dropped off the stuff, and they're like, "How do you keep this stuff from smelling like a campfire?" I was like, "Well, set it out and let it sit for a few days." But but yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will never move to a place with an HOA. Even if I didn't do the laser stuff, I don't. I've heard some horror stories of that. No, granted, you without that, you run the risk of your neighbors being you're not so neighborly with their yard and everything. But
well, we have that risk here, and don't get me wrong. I've got some neighbors that, I mean, straight out to trailer park. I mean, and they don't know how to clean their yard. They don't know how to keep their animals put up. I mean, that happens out here,
mhm.
no doubt. Luckily, where I am, I'm surrounded. I don't know if you've seen the drone photo, but I'm surrounded by a family-owned 3,000 acres that they keep cows on and hunt. And then across the street, my nephew just bought the 20 acres across the street from me. I got a Vietnam vet owns the 20 beside me that keeps to himself, stays in his house. He does have some stuff around his house, but it doesn't bother me because you can't see it from my yard. But yeah, I mean, in loud parties and stuff like that. There's a venue right across the road from my house, so some nights they're cranking the Hank Williams until 2 in the morning. But hey, I just go grab a beverage and sit on the porch and enjoy.
There you go. Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty much a live and let live kind of person myself. I'll do my thing,
But
you do your thing, as long as we don't encroach on each other too bad. I don't care. But
yeah,
but with that, I mean, I am in a neighborhood. The houses are. I mean, we're not like right on top of each other, but close enough. And so, luckily, my shop is my garage, which is off the alleyway. Which we're at the very dead end of the alley, which is bad in one remark, but no one comes by my shop unless they're coming to see me. And so it's my shop is actually about as far away from any other house as it can be, and then I've got it fully insulated, so I can be running my CNC in there, and as long as the doors are shut, it's just a hum outside, and they don't. I've been up late, uh, cranking out airplane stand parts and whatnot, and no one cares. So
yeah. Well, I haven't had any complaints. The sawmill is probably the loudest thing I've got. The cows don't mind. I did have a really large bull look at me funny the other day when I was up there. But luckily for me, there was a fence between us. Yeah. Go hang out in the shop with them. I
so
don't know who's talking to you or me or.
yeah, go well. Your noisy neighbors, go hang out with them. Bring your beer and your
But believe
venue.
it or not, the noisy neighbors over at the venue keep me busy though, because
It's a good problem to have.
anytime they have when they have weddings or anything, they send people over here to get stuff made. So I built half the venue. I
Sounds
don't
like
mind it. Like I said,
It sounds like we were able to help Beaver Creek Farm last week. They were able to adjust their belts and their eccentric nuts. Sounds like it's running better for them from their comments here. So that's good to hear. It's one of our goals
yeah,
with our lives is to be able to help answer some questions and get you running with that. So
yeah. I don't have my little clapping sounds. I see the disappointment in your face.
uh,
But yeah, and I was kind of wondering if he was going to be in here or not. Jason Libran, he was working on his CO2 last night, his Monport, and he was texting me. Uh, he was putting air assist on it. You know how that can go.
yeah,
So
yep.
he learned last night how to align lenses and mirrors.
Yeah, Aaron's talking about taking his laser outside and impressing all the neighbors, and that's true too. I mean, both with my CNC and my laser, there's I've gotten to know some of my neighbors because they do some minor woodworking, and they'll bring things over to have them customized, or others just asking. That's a good small business there, or just in your neighborhood. Make everybody their house, their address, their number signs, and things like that. Um, they're far more tolerant of what you're doing if you're giving them some nice custom. Well, maybe not giving them, but offering them your services as well. So,
All right, looks like uh, laser tree K30. Haven't heard of it.
remember, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. That is very similar to the um, the Congrow module. At least some people are saying they're not their K30, but I think their 20-watt module is very similar. So, but I haven't seen this actual module. I haven't seen them actually use it.
Mm-hmm. I haven't heard of it. Haven't seen it either. I'll look it up, but yeah. Well, who was that? Beaver Creek. I would love to comment and reply, but I'm glad you got it fixed. Every time I try to reply to a comment, I get an error, so I'm going to refrain from that. But glad you got it working. Uh-oh. Your buddy's having an issue.
What? So, if if it feels stiff and the belts, if you've loosened up the belts and the eccentric nuts, I would individually check each of the wheels and see if one's sticking or dragging. There are bearings in them that shouldn't go bad on a laser, but if there's something bad with it, that could be it. Um, yeah. Otherwise, when you're adjusting your eccentric nuts, you want it to snug up just so where it touches and there's no play, but you don't want any extra pressure on that. So, double and triple check that to make sure it's just sitting on the rail without any extra pressure. And the belts can be too tight. If you got them too tight, that's going to put some binding as well on there. So, maybe try backing them off just a little bit to where they're not skipping and not loose, but just holding enough pressure on that belt and on those idler pulleys as well. So there you go. I assume he's talking about your new A30 downdraft thing.
Yeah, it's pretty much just a 2x4 box with the hole cut in it for the matrix panel and then a hole for the air to go out. It's that simple, guys. uh, I made it out of necessity, the size of this piece of plywood, which just so happened to be the right size for the Atomstack. Uh, but uh, but yeah, it's basically just a piece of 3/4 ply. The bottom is actually made out of Luan because all I needed it for was just to seal up the bottom so that it would create an air draft chamber. But the top is 3/4 ply so that it's rigid enough to support the machine without bending or anything like that. One 8-foot 2x4 fir or spruce, whichever, and a few screws. That's about it. It's the same as the enclosure I have over here that I have the X tool in. It's basically the same thing as that one. The only difference with this one is the one in my enclosure over here now is it's got a 2x2 floor, and I have a kind of a maze built in the bottom of it for the airflow. But with this one, because I did want to leave I got the parts box, I got the roller, I got the manuals, I got all the tools are all inside that chamber. So basically, the I didn't want to put anything in there, and I wanted to test it to see how it worked with the air. And so far, it's working really good. No, I keep the cats run out most of the time when I'm in here with the lasers. I usually have them in the enclosures, and this will eventually end up being an enclosure. Uh, but right now it's the base, and I just wanted to test the flow and everything and get it started. But I've got to take my original enclosure. I'm going to tear it down, strip it for parts, and take this base and build another enclosure off of this base to replace that one with eventually. But I just don't have time to do it right now. So I'm just running it on the table until I get all the bugs worked out of it. But if you've got kids, small kids, dogs, I wouldn't be so worried about. Cats are really curious of things moving, and kids are really curious of things. So I would definitely try to put it in some type of a optical resistant box, whether it be the tinted acrylic or wood or cloth or whatever, because little kids do get intrigued by bright flashing lights, and so you don't want to take a chance on that.
Well, and that's one of the areas where I would recommend maybe throwing a monitoring camera in your enclosure. You can get those, very cheap. It could be a webcam, could be one of those $25, $30 Wise cameras. Let them watch that on a monitor so that they aren't as curious looking there. But yeah, I mean, if you've got kids, especially, or just people you care about that wander into your shop, uh, get a spare pair of glasses. I know the lasers come with them, and they're okay. I can't validate that they do what they're supposed to do, but for $40, you can get an official pair of glasses, and $40 to $50, and get those for yourself and anyone else you might have in your shop. And I haven't tried putting them on the cat yet, so I'm not sure how well that would go. But
Yeah, that's a new word, Trouble. I just made that up. Optical resistance.
now that
Which,
was an interesting thing. I put together. I know you got your video out on it. I put together my Ortur enclosure. What are they calling it? They're 2.0, and so it does have. I like how they did this. I haven't really tested the plastic on there, but it has the orange plastic window, but then it's got a zip up panel that closes that off. Which,
yeah,
granted, that means you can't see what's going on inside there. But yeah, if you've got curious eyes and you kind of trust what's going on, or you have a camera or something, then you can that pretty much seals that thing up. So uh, now I'm not 100% sold on the frame yet, although I just got it together and I got to get everything in it.
it's not that
But
bad. You don't need to be stacking stuff on top of it. It
well,
does
no,
bend, but
yeah, that
it's not that
the
bad.
the part that gets me is that it's just a little too flexible. I don't like when it starts falling in on itself while you're trying to zip or unzip it, and that's I've noticed that of a few enclosures that it's kind of like, I'd rather just be able to flip it up on top and not worry about, even the X Tools enclosure, the way they have that. If you don't have those panels just right, it'll have a tendency to sink in on it, and I'm not a fan of that. So
Yeah, that's why I like my custom built enclosures, and probably what I'm going to do on this one. I'm going to try to downscale my material list to get it to where it's a little more economical, and I may use like a maybe like a 2x2 frame, and then just cover the sides in like Luan or something that's cheap that people can afford a little better than the $80 a sheet plywood, and do it that way. But I don't know yet. I really like the really thick enclosures. They're a lot better for sound.
yeah, yeah, I would agree. Having a little more meat to them does help. But see, my reference is CNCs to lasers. I don't, the lasers don't make a whole lot of noise compared to them. So
Yeah, yeah. CNC, you'd need my earmuffs over there for that. I would imagine. But
it
usually you
depends.
can't hear it in here for the radio. I've usually got the radio wide open. So
So what really, I mean, you could quiet down a CNC to where it's just the basically the chatter from the bit, which you shouldn't really have chatter, but you're going to have some noise from the bit. Uh, However, what you really get is if you're using a router, you got the air cooling. Routers allowed, but you can get a water cooled spindle, but then you still have your dust collection. So if you can get your dust collection outside your shop and a water cooled spindle, you can actually get a CNC to machine router to not be terribly loud. But yeah, it takes a lot, and an enclosure is usually a lot easier, and that helps just control the dust. Because if you think smoke's bad with a laser, dealing with dust flying around, chips flying around from a CNC, you got to have good dust collection, and it's even better if you can have an enclosure to help contain it even more. So
Yeah, I finally got a decent. It ain't the best, but a decent dust collection on all my saws and stuff. If I can keep from stopping up the blower. Uh, I did run some stuff through the planer the other day, and I run it against cross instead of running it across grain. I run it with the grain. That was a no. Yeah, that looked like a bird nest. but uh, but yeah. All right. It's gotten awful quiet. Nobody's asking any questions, or Brian's not commented on your beard not once tonight. I mean, what is up? Oh, mosquitoes. Let me close that door. Mosquitoes are starting to come in here.
I'm not going to talk about it because I'm sure we're going to have them in like 2-3 days. We've got other bugs out already, but I luckily haven't seen a mosquito yet. So
Ron's question.
which one's that?
Yeah, Ron was saying he wished that Lightburn had a file optimizer. They call it optimization, but it's not that great.
They've got optimization as far as how it's going to arrange your current pathing. I don't know that they have a layout optimization. I know various CNC tools will have that. CAD tools will have it. But yeah, I agree that because especially if you get into the point where you've got a file that you run over and over again, and so you're doing production, lining up just two straight cuts so that instead of cutting one side and the other, you can cut your time in half by just having it cut one path. And you do that enough, you can take, a 20-minute file, take it down to 15. And, if you're doing that time and time again, now you've probably saved yourself an hour over an 8-hour day kind of thing. So it is worth it to optimize it both in the lines that it needs to cut, but also in the pathing that it takes. But yeah, Ron, I think you're right. There's probably a third party or an external one where you can do the layout. And I know what you're talking about. It's drawing a blank on me right now. So, but yeah, it's definitely worth it if you're going to run it more than once or over and over again. But
yeah, if you can position it takes a while because I do it on a lot of the ones that like the ink bandits and some of the other things that I burn a lot of. You have to move those parts to where the lines overlay each other and then take out overlapping lines. And it takes a while, but if you're doing like some of the stuff I do where you're doing 250 or 300 of them, it actually pays off in the long run because you spend an hour optimizing the file, but then you save 6 hours, doing 500 of the cuts. All right. Well, this is how it started, guys. I was out getting my pizza. No, seriously, no. We actually met on the internet. We've actually never been in the same room together yet. That's coming. Steve's coming through in May, right?
Yeah. Sooner than May.
Is it? When is it?
It's like 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah. I need to get that room for you. If you decided what time he's going to be here, I need to get that taken care of. Remind me of that. Yeah. Believe it or not, when I first got into lasers, I actually watched some of Steve's videos, and just kind of knew him from watching his channel. And then when I started my channel, and it kind of got to where it was actually a thing, and it wasn't just me being crazy out here with my camera and my wife making fun of me and rolling her eyes at me. We just kind of started messaging and commenting on each other's videos, and it just went from there. But yeah. I'd love to tell you that I was walking through Maynard's going to buy my pizza, and we bumped into each other in the plywood aisle, but that ain't how it happened. Menards, that's how you say it. Menards, right? What's the pizza hardware store?
Yeah. Menards. Well, it's pizza and occasionally other things, yes.
Yeah, you
But
can get your pizza, your ice cream, and your 2x4s all in the same building.
yeah.
But no, it was just like I said. We just started messaging. There was, of course, there's always something that comes up, and like I said, I knew Steve knew stuff that I didn't, and so it went from there. And he's been giving me a hard time ever since. He
So
likes to bully me.
so jumping back to the nesting one, troublemakers pointed out, yeah, the arrange and Lightburn, there is nest selected. What that does is it takes you to a website called SVG Nest, free and open source nesting for CNC machines, lasers, and such. So it's not inside Lightburn, but you can take your file, you can move it in there. It'll let you set some parameters and help optimize it for you.
No, I do not. That's common sense, guys. Here in Alabama, we still believe people should have it. So that's on them.
Yeah, I would see. I would hope they'd realize that. The thing that gets me more often is if someone stashes something in the oven and forgets it's in there and turns it on, preheats it. That I can understand. But I'm trying to train my boys. I'm like, you always look in there because you never know when mom made a cake and stored it in there to keep it away from. You don't want to burn that. But see, that's what I just don't get. I mean, I use the stove all the time. I don't want to be like taking this big board and setting it somewhere to use my stove. So
Hey, it's a thing. But if you're having company and you're gonna have chips and dip out, and you're gonna have all this stuff set up on the counter, and you have a small counter, that just gives you like another 8 square feet of counter space.
well,
So
if I'm feeding them chips and dip, it's going onto the table because I'm obviously not feeding them anything else.
well, you never know. People like them. I don't question it. I just make them.
No, hey, more power to you that people want to
My
buy them.
wife,
For me, I don't get
my
it.
wife had one until she got her new stove. Now that she's got her new stove, she doesn't use hers. But it was because the old stove just, it gets banged and bumped and scratched and all that, and she wanted to hide it. But now that she's got her new stove, she's just like don't want to use it because she don't want to hide her pretty stove. So I don't know. I don't understand it. But either way,
Uh,
trying to catch up.
so Kathy's asking about speed and power for brilliance with stainless, and looks like a X-Tool D120 watt. Um, that I actually did that with the Ortour, which was a 10 watt, and I'd have to go back and look, but I believe my speed was right around 2,500 millimeters a minute, and I think my power was up around 75. It does like to be. I mean, they say it's for CO2 and fibers because they're expecting to use a little extra power, and so on that, and especially when you're marking it with the black, I wouldn't worry about running it a little hot. So running at 75, 85% shouldn't be terrible. And then play with your speed. A little trick to, if you have it and you don't want to waste a tumbler, go to your home center and pick up these stainless steel plate covers. You can do your test grids on here a lot cheaper than your tumblers, and it'll get you in the ballpark. So these
Yeah.
are a couple bucks tops.
Well, I've got the video I just did on this guy on the Aether, which is 24 watts, but I can't remember what the settings were. But you can go back and watch the video. I did a bunch of test grids too. One side of this I did at one setting, and the other one I did at another setting. I will tell you this: if you're gonna experiment with tumblers, it's better to go too hot than it is not hot enough, because if you go too hot, you actually may discolor the stainless slightly. But if you go too cold, you're going to leave the coating and it just looks bad. Uh, so I would rather go a little too hot on a tumbler than not hot enough.
Well, and they're talking about using the marking spray, so going too
Yeah,
hot's really not going to matter. If you go too cold with that, yeah, it's going to be light or it's going to wipe off. If you go too hot, it doesn't matter if you discolor the stainless underneath it because you're fusing that material to the stainless, and then that should just be black. So
just don't
but
run
yeah,
two
I would
passes.
no no try to I don't care if it's a chuck or a roller rotary. That's a one pass operation. So
Yeah, if you do two passes on any kind of marking spray, the second pass takes it off. So, just if you were thinking about it,
mm-hmm.
I did some glass earlier with the Atomstack and Surmark, but I haven't even got that edited yet. I finished it up right before the live. Second fireproof, so everything. I'm gonna be honest with you. If I was single, I don't know that I have an oven. I just have a
I think
microwave.
that's the point.
Yeah,
The oven's
yeah. I
never
don't even think I
used,
put
so
one in
it's
the
no
house.
difference.
Yeah, I don't even think I'd have one in the house. I don't do a lot of cooking. I have a grill, a smoker, and a microwave. That would be it.
Yeah, I was gonna say if it goes in the oven and it can't go on my smoker, then well, I don't like doing it.
The thing with marking spray, and this is just my opinion, Steve can probably give you a more scientific explanation of it, but you don't really want to do a whole lot of overlapping the lines with marking spray because it does get put on there with heat, but if you go over it with that second pass and the third pass, you're eventually you're going to be putting it on and taking it off all in the same run. So I experimented with turning up the LPI today, and that's what I found is that less of the Ceremark stays because of the increase in LPI. What do you think, Steve? What's your theory?
Yeah, I mean, I could see if I can see if we had if you're running it really hot, I could see that being a problem. Um, if I do agree that I try to stick to pretty close to um, my dot size. So if it's 0.8, I'm going to try to line that up in your DPI. If it's I've seen some claim they're 0.6, so I might take it higher then to make sure you cover that. But I'm usually around that 0.1 to 0.8.
Did you throw that up there?
I don't know what you're talking
You
about.
did, didn't you? You did, didn't you? Yeah, I don't do a lot of cooking, guys. That's why I said if it was me, I wouldn't have one. I don't do that. I'm not disputing that. Just like laundry, I'd have to hire a laundry service or something because I don't do laundry. I just have to go buy new clothes every week. I don't know what I'd do.
Go broke with all that eating out and
Well,
clothesline.
let's just put it this way. I have never been single as an adult, so I wouldn't. I don't know. I don't know what I'd do. Oh,
Well,
since I have been an adult and been on my own, luckily I've had Brandy around to kind of help take care of me. So
well,
I don't even want to think about that.
we just celebrated our 23rd wedding anniversary yesterday, and Carla does probably do more of the actual cooking, but she's also we've got three boys, and um, she's been on them since a young age. You're going to learn how to cook. You're going to learn how to do your laundry. You're going to do as part of family. You do some chores, and so we all pitch in. There's no that's your job or my job kind of thing. So, but it's since we got the smoker and the other grills outside, that's made me more excited to do more cooking because I like doing that more. So
There's your lenses.
Joseph, yes. So my friend Mike was doing that for the better part of last year, but he kind of wanted to get back into retirement. So I do. I do have them. I have them on my Etsy store, as well as if people reach out to me directly, I can do that through PayPal. What they are, I don't actually have any right now, but they're I sell them in packs of 8. They're 1 millimeter by 12.5. The stock lenses on most of these lasers, and it's the same thing for the 8er, same thing for the X tool, even some of the later Comgros. They all use this kind of brass cover on the lens, and then you can. But they've also been trying to glue them in recently, so you can get that cover lens out. You can replace it. I sell them in packs of 8 for $22, and I include some O-rings in case because some of the newer ones, X-Tool didn't have the brass nut in there. They just put them in with the O-ring and they glue them in. Well, the O-ring will hold it tight, and then you can replace that as well. So um, if you hit up any of my videos, I've got the link down in the description. Otherwise, just message me on Facebook, and I'll get you the information there as well. So try to make them economical. They are kind of a consumable item depending on what you're doing. But yeah, that's my really bad sales pitch on them.
Go get more lenses. Well, Brian, typically she doesn't go off for a week a lot. She's very much a homebody. Uh, she she is capable of doing so, and I'm capable of surviving. Now, most of my meals will come from a microwavable type setup or pizza shop or whatever. Might go down to the gas station, get some gas station chicken. Maybe go up to the other gas station, get some chicken livers. But I can survive. I mean, uh, typically she has laundry done, so that's not really a problem. But yeah, usually I try to go with her, so I don't have to struggle through it. But yeah.
Uh, Joseph's wondering if I ship to Canada. I do. However, the shipping is like an extra $11 international. So it ends up being $33 to ship them up there. So I dropped the Etsy link there. Otherwise, if people reach out to me through the Facebook page and such, I can also do direct through PayPal as well. So
What? You don't eat gas station chicken up north? What the heck? That's some of the best chicken.
well, now it depends on the gas station. Now we've got what's called a Quick Trip up here, and
Yeah.
they're actually based out of Wisconsin, but they're in the Midwest area, and they're kind of like a mini grocery store. And I mean, you can go and buy bread, fruit, you can buy steaks for the grill, um, and they do have some decent food. That's when I get back into the Midwest. Anytime I take a road trip, I'm always glad when I get back into the kind of Midwest area because we've got Quick Trips and we've got Casey's, and I trust the food out of them more than others. So
Well, we've got this little gas station that's probably about I don't know 4 miles from my house, 3, and it's a rather new one. They just recently built it a couple years ago. And I don't forgot what nationality the guys that run it are, but they're not from Alabama. But they've got some really good chicken in there, and the chicken fingers are like they look like they come off a pterodactyl. I mean, they're huge. Like 3 of them is a meal. So when I'm in a bind out here at the shop working and ain't got time, wife's not here to get me anything to eat. We just run down there and get some chicken, or you can go to the other way and the store up on top of the hill up here. They sell chicken livers by the pound, but it's best if you call them ahead of time and tell them you're coming because it takes a while to cook chicken livers, and we just go pick them up.
I mean,
Hey, there's Jason.
I think
Chicken livers.
my cats turn those down even, so I just throw them
Man,
out.
chicken livers that's what we're going to do. When you come to town, we're taking you out for some chicken livers with gravy. Some fried chicken livers with some brown gravy and french fries. Just
So
gravy all over everything.
I bought one of those 12-volt fridges that it's going to keep all my food nice and.
No. We're going to take you. We're to let's see, where's a good place? We're going to take you to the Hickory Chip, and That's what we can do. Take you to the Hickory Chip and get you a hot hamburger. Which a hot hamburger is basically a hamburger and some chicken livers. A hot is a. We could go to Jack's. They have both. I hope you're going to be hungry because that's a lot of food. But yeah, it's a hamburger patty on a bun with some cheese. You got some sautéed onions, brown gravy, and then of course you get the fries. And you just put the gravy all over those too because gravy goes good with anything. And yeah, that's what you need: a hot hamburger and some chicken livers.
Sounds better
Oh,
than
they're good, guys.
cold hamburger.
They're good, guys. The chicken livers are good. Now gizzards make my jaws hurt because you have to chew them so much. But growing up, I mean, chicken livers and gizzards was, I mean, we got the stuff at the grocery store that everybody else left. Nobody else wanted. That was the cheapest stuff to get. That's what we lived off of. So, yeah, see, there you go, Joe. That's what Joe said. Take them fishing. If you don't catch anything, just drop them in some hot grease when you get home. That's how that works.
I hope it's the ones that you didn't toss into the lake or the river that you toss and fry them.
We're gonna have to get you out some, Steve.
So, Bob, yeah, the 60-watt Ohmtech CO2 is kind of the newer version of the one I've got. So there's a lot of CO2 machines that come out of China that then get rebranded, and they often will have their own spin put on it. So your Ohmtechs and your Monports are very much that. They work with the manufacturers and say, well, these are the specs we want, these are the colors we want, these are the features we want. So I'm familiar in the fact that it's similar to mine. Mine is 7 years old at this point, and has had multiple upgrades. And I've talked with Ohmtech a number of times. I think for a hobbyist or small business, they're definitely someone I would look at from more of a budget standpoint. You want to get into it, but not spend $10,000, $12,000, $13,000. That's definitely a company I would look into as an option. So, but if you have any specific questions about it, I can try to answer as well. So,
just so you know, I have been outside of Alabama. I have been to New York City, which I did not fit in. The only place in New York City that has decent food is Harlem. I'm going to throw that out there. Couldn't find any grits anywhere until I went downtown in Harlem, and I found a Soul Kitchen that had some grits and scrambled eggs. I've been to Houston, Texas, Louisiana, Florida, Georgia. I've been all over the South, and pretty much everywhere up here or down here is the same. But y'all folks up north don't put sugar in your tea, okay? That bothers me.
People do. I don't.
Well, if you go north of, what was that? North Carolina, South Carolina, and you ask for a glass of sweet tea, they're going to look at you funny, and then they're going to go get the sugar and put it in the cold tea and stir it up like that's actually sweet tea.
Well, that's because we add sugar to our tea. We don't add tea flavoring to our sugar. There's the difference.
But yeah, no, I've been outside of Alabama, and I've tried other foods. I went to when I was in New York City. I actually found a Jewish pizza place. What do they call it? Anyway, it was like some kind of cheese pizza. And I bought one of those there because I had never been, that was something I'd never seen. And that thing was really good. Like I ate the whole large pizza, which their large pizza was large. And I ate the whole thing myself. I also, while I was in New York, tried some Jamaican habanero split breasted chicken or something like that. That stuff had a bite to it. So I've ate Jamaican. I eat pretty much anything that I can catch that doesn't outrun me. So my wife can vouch for it, guys. I don't turn down much. I did turn down the stuffed mushrooms the other night. I thought it was a potato. It looked like a potato with cheese all over the top. So I went, I fixed my plate. My wife had sent me a text, said supper was ready. Went in to eat. And so we had some, I think it was like, what was it? Wings. Had some wings. And then it looked like a nice little baked potato about that big. And I was thinking that was a really small potato. But turns out it was actually a mushroom that was stuffed with some stuff, and yeah, I put that back. I don't, I don't do a lot of funguses.
Yeah, no, I don't. I get ill when I have mushrooms, so
Well, my
I'll
wife
skip
and
that.
my daughter's growing them under the house right now as we speak. There is
I
a 5 gallon bucket that is exploding with mushrooms under my house.
Yeah, no, it's not that I wouldn't enjoy them. I just they don't agree with me. I get pretty ill for a day after
Mm.
having those. Um, so the question on the lenses, I've been using a D1 Pro 20 watt almost every day, very heavily on weekends. So here's the thing: if you have a really good cleaning routine and your mind, and you've got a good air extraction setup, um, you could run a long time and never have an issue. There's some people, especially like Clack's got one of the original D1s that doesn't even
Mm-hmm.
have a cover lens on it, and has never had an issue with that. Just a good cleaning routine. However, some of the newer ones have had some issues with some of their cover lenses. All it takes is a little bit of dust gets on the lens, the laser hits the lens, it heats up, it cracks, or it fuses that dust to it, and yeah, you start having some issues. Um, that being said, a lot of that can be cleared up a bit. You can soak that cover lens in acetone overnight, and that'll help take away any, some things that are caked on there. But it can actually then etch, just like you would um, coat glass in black paint to etch the glass. If you have too much smoke and debris collecting on there, it's going to have the same effect on your cover lens. So, yeah, it's probably a good idea to have some spares, just in case, especially if you're doing jobs for people and you have timelines and you don't want to be down. Um, it's an inexpensive thing to have on hand that can just keep you up and running. But it's not a replacement for a good cleaning routine. The whole machine, you keep it clean, and if you ran a smoky job, take the time to, get a little alcohol in there, clean it off real quick. A couple minutes in between runs might save you a lot of hassle at the end. So
Yeah, I run. I've run my Pro. I have run the stew out of it, and I'm still running the same lens that came with it. But I do have a pack of your lenses. I actually got them from your buddy before you took over, but
yeah,
I do have a pack of lenses because, like I said, there's nothing worse than trying to finish up a job and all of a sudden your lens cracks, and that's an easy 5 minute repair. But if you ain't got the lens, it could be 2 or 3 days waiting on shipping. So I've got some of them on hand just in case. Of course, I could probably find a laser around here somewhere that I could take one out of and put in it, but I'd rather
well,
not do
and that
that.
and that's the thing. I mean, I've looked at the Acer P20. It's the exact. I mean, you could take the brass sleeve off that one, put it right on the X tool. Same thing with, I think, was it the Wayne Lux I had a number of them. They're using the same parts uh, for that cover lens. So even if you want to buy an official one with the brass sleeve, you can go to any one of those manufacturers if they happen to have them. It's probably going to fit. So it's strictly just there to be. You'd rather ruin that cover lens than your focus lens. That's the whole reason it's there. So
Oh yeah, it's kind of like body armor for your lens.
mhm.
It takes the beating. But D1 Pro 20 watt and use the same lens. I don't have the IR, but I think all of them pretty much do. Because since me and Steve have been discussing lenses, almost every machine that comes in here, I break it down and look to see. And most every machine I've got in my shop so far, it appears that it uses the same lens. I think the Atomstack may be a little smaller. The lens inside it's a little smaller, I believe, because this A30 actually came with an extra one and it looks smaller.
So this is a it's an interesting question. How often should you clean it? That's going to vary. It's going to vary on what you're cutting, whether you're using air assist or not, whether it's a smoky material or not, whether you've got really good air extraction. My general rule is if you run a job and you could see a lot of smoke around your laser module, it's probably good to double check it. If you're running something like a painted tile, even if you've got air assist on there, I would check the cone because a lot of times that that paint as it's getting vaporized, it's splattering up on your uh, your end cone, and it can clog it. It can make it dirty. So um, it really depends on what you're doing and how often you use your laser. If you're using it occasionally on a weekend, it might be the thing that you clean it every other week because you only do a couple things on the weekend. But if you're someone who's using it 6 8 hours a day, you might stop and clean it, every 2 hours just to make sure, or even in between every job if it's super smoky. So you kind of get a feel for it with the materials you're using as to whether you need to check it or not. And you'd be surprised. I've even in just some of my testing, running through 3 4 different materials on a new machine, I'll then pop it off and look, and on some of them I'll see some residue either on the air assist cone, or if I forgot to turn the air assist on for a job, there could be something on that lens as well. So it doesn't take a lot to collect on there.
And that is why, too, guys, I always run just a little bit of air, even if I'm not cutting, I'm running a little bit of air, and that's just to keep that gases and stuff coming up off that cut from sitting in front of that lens. Uh, Now this new cutting surface and little setup I got here is doing a really good job with that. So I'm looking forward to getting that in an enclosure. But yeah, the key is to keep those things clean and they'll last longer. But if they don't last, Steve will sell you more. So
So follow up there, Joe's asking what's the difference between the ones I'm offering, the Live Pixel and Hemsley. So here's my take on it. So what they're offering is some mineral glass, and then often with a coating on it, and the claim is that they will um, they lose less light through them. They have the coating that keeps them clean longer. The hardened glass is less likely to maybe crack and break, and that is true to a point. My thing is, if you're doing your cleaning routine, the plain clear glass is good enough, and your coated glass is still going to need to be cleaned. And after you clean it a few times, that coating is going to start wearing off. Um, and as far as light transmission, you may or may not get a little bit more out of mineral glass versus just plain clear glass. I I offer these up as really it's a budget, it's a consumable item. I want it as cheap as I can. I'm going to take care of it as best as I can, but when I have to replace it, I don't want it to be costing me a ton. And so that's my take on it. I'm not saying that theirs are worse or that it's not worth it. They're science would say that yes, you may get some better light transmission through there, or they may stay cleaner longer. But that's not to take place of actually doing a good cleaning routine. And if you do that, you make sure it's clean when you install it. You keep cleaning it while it's on there. Then hopefully you really shouldn't need too many. I mean, I'm offering 8 in a pack for $22, and hopefully that lasts you until you upgrade your laser. So,
yeah, like I said,
um,
about a year, and I'm still rocking the same one, taking care of it. So now it probably wouldn't hurt me to go ahead and change it out, but until my cut starts suffering, I'm not going to.
yeah, and that's one of the good signs on it is that if you notice there's a power issue, it's a good time to check your lenses. Jim's asking the same thing as how often would you clean on the CO2? It's kind of the same thing. If you're running your air assist and it's a good air assist, hopefully nothing's getting on there. I always run just a minor air when I'm engraving, full air when I'm cutting. But the thing that you got to remember with the CO2 is you also have the mirrors, and you can get on the top side of your lens if you get smoke in through the top part of your mirror, or you can get it in through the bottom. So there's no real way to isolate it from any dust. So there again, I try if I'm using my laser heavily, I try to do it at least once a week, and by heavily I mean a few days a week. If I'm running like 8 hours, I'll do it at the end of the day. If unless I notice an issue, and that's sometimes it. You notice like why am I feel like I'm losing a little power? Well, it could be a little smoke on your mirrors, it could be a little smoke on your lens. Um, and yeah, it even on the CO2, it takes maybe 5 minutes tops wipe down all your mirrors, let the alcohol clean off of it and such. And I see there's some people asking about how to clean it. Um, I use Q-tips and isopropyl alcohol. One thing I would recommend is get yourself a pack of these special fancy Q-tips. Um, these will not leave lint, whereas your typical cotton swab, you might lose some of those little threads on there, and if those get stuck on there, then that's bad news as well. Whereas these will not have that issue. If I can get it to focus on that again, so you'll notice there's really not any fibers that are necessarily going to come loose. So they cost a little bit more, but when you're talking about, especially in a CO2, your actual focus lens that isn't just a piece of glass you can easily replace, which you should still have spares. I like to make sure that I'm not leaving anything on there or on the mirrors. So, and yeah, as pure alcohol as you can. About $16 on Amazon will get you like 32, or is it, what was it? I think it's about a 32-ounce bottle of 99% alcohol, and that'll last you a long time cleaning lenses and mirrors.
Yeah, it doesn't take a whole lot, especially with the diodes, because you really only have, like I said, that one thing, and it also, the alcohol will help cut some of that gunk off of the cooling fans and stuff, cooling fins. Now you can't really get in between the fins if you let it get that bad, but I like to try to clean that metal, because if the metal's touching the air and doesn't have that coating of gunk on it, it ought to cool a little bit better. I just use regular rubbing alcohol. I mean, you can go to Dollar General or anywhere else and get it. Now, the stuff that Steve's saying, that's like your super unleaded. That's
Yeah,
that's a little higher content.
this is great stuff, and you can get this on Amazon, like I say, for about $16. It's 32 ounces, but denatured will work as well. The important thing is you don't want a lot of water content in there, because as that evaporates, if that's left on there, that can leave little spots and such. But yeah, 91%. Yeah, that's, see, I actually got this when it was during the pandemic, and none of the local stores had any rubbing alcohol, and I was able to order
That
this,
is
and I'm still using this.
from about, I don't know, 6 months, and that's cleaning tumblers, that's cleaning laser lenses, and I still got like half of it. Now it's about time for me to go get some more. But yeah, I think this is like Walgreens CVS one. So I just use regular Q-tips. I don't have those fancy Q-tips Steve uses. I just make really sure not to leave any debris on the lens.
I, yeah, I mean, you got to be careful. It's just like, especially when you're using the CO2 and some of those mirrors you can't see as well. I like to know that I'm not leaving anything behind. I'll see if I can grab the link for these real quick for people.
It doesn't have to be denatured alcohol trouble.
So these are, you get them in a pack of 200 for $12. So I will drop that.
Yeah, Robert, that's the Atomstack's pretty much got the same setup as far as it's got the cone that goes around the nozzle for the air assist, and then it's got the two screws hold the cover on. But I take the covers off of mine and put the screws back in the hole. That way, when I do take it off to clean it, it's obvious you put the screws in the holes that don't already have a screw in them. So if you take your cover off, it makes that part a little simpler.
Yeah, microfiber rags and cloths. If you get the lens cleaning cloths that come with eyeglasses, and a lot of lasers come with one of these, these are good for cleaning that stuff off as well. I actually use these. I try to, as I'm cutting and making all those lenses, I try to make sure I clean them as best as I can before sending them out. And that's what I use.
Yeah. Now the way these machines work, the Atomstack and the Acer, the bottom cover, the little safety cover, it has two screws that hold it on, and then there's two that or on the opposite direction that hold the air assist cone on. And like they were saying, when you take it apart to clean it, if you're not careful, you'll put the wrong one in the wrong holes. But I just take the covers off of mine and put the screws back in the hole in case I ever do want to put them back on there. And like I said, it just keeps down the confusion because I only got 2 holes that don't have a screw in them. $16 for 500 milliliters. Oof. What's he buying?
Probably alcohol.
No thanks. 200 milliliters. It seems like it's a lot. No, that's not a lot. 500 milliliters. That's like half the size of this for $16. Good night. Maybe I need to start shipping some alcohol to Canada.
I don't know. That sounds sketchy from someone down south.
Hey, that's how we invented NASCAR. That's how NASCAR got started, man.
So I ran into a funny thing testing the ASMR. I don't know. Did they send you a material kit with yours, or did they just send the laser?
Yeah, they sent that. I mean, it was a bunch of little just pieces of basswood and stuff like that. I mean, I don't ever
Well,
even use it really.
So mine came with a separate box, and so I had some of it that in there. But one of the things that was in there was this piece of acrylic, and if you look at their documentation, they give you speeds for, I think, 2 and 4 millimeter acrylic, and then their documentation says it cuts up to 6 millimeters. Well, they sent this brick that is
Cool.
9.6 millimeters. I was like,
I didn't get one of those. I actually wouldn't mind having that.
So this is a 10-watt laser, and I was able to cut through it eventually in 6 passes, I believe. So even though they didn't say it would work, I was able to get it to work on that. So
I can't click your links. They're saying they can't see them.
oh, I probably put it here. Here's the first
put
one's the alcohol. And
okay, yeah.
This one should be the cotton swab.
I was going to say, you should have the same access to that as I do. You must have put it on YouTube or something.
Okay, nope, that's not right.
That's a video. What you watching?
No, that was I tried copying it from another one. Let's do this. Here is the swabs. Let's try that one. There we go. So
they're asking, do you actually cut the lenses? I'm assuming you do, since you talked about the process.
Yeah, so you can get a lens cutter for that. I sometimes am able to get another place to do it, but getting things done right now is kind of hit or miss with some places as far as timing. So when I need to, I have a process to make some extras. Yeah, it's not fun. Sometimes they don't come out clean, but
yeah, guys, that right there is the reason that I take the covers off typically. Now, some of the newer machines that I'm testing, I still don't like how far the cone comes down, but yeah, a lot of times if the cone catches, that cone sometimes may actually let the material slip. But yeah, I've had that happen. That is terrible, especially when you're like 5 minutes from completing a job and it catches and just messes everything up. But yeah, Joseph, it sounds like you might need to go to the package store and just get you some Everclear. Yeah, that's prices are kind of high up there for that. Go on Amazon, buy you a little steel, make your own.
Yeah, those shrouds are. I mean, they're there just to provide a layer of protection. Seeing as these are open frame lasers, it does not need it to run. It is there to protect your eyes. So, and even with that on there, I still recommend these glasses. And if you've got these glasses, then it's just an extra layer that can get in the way. So, I try to have it in an enclosure, have the enclosure have the plastic, and then wear the glasses on top of that, and then I feel fine taking that shroud off. So because yeah, I think you use your laser enough, you're eventually going to have that shroud catch something, and depending on the material or piece you've got, it's going to be frustrating because you got to restart it, or very frustrating because you ruined some expensive piece of material. So
No, Dave. I actually don't. They don't usually have websites. But there's plenty of it down here. And it's actually legal to brew up to I think it's like 10 gallons a year for personal use. Uh, yeah, yeah. The more layers of security you can have, the better, guys. The last thing you want is for your eyes to get damaged. I mean, if you were to have a mishap, not that somebody that I've talked to in the past 24 hours has or not, but if you were to have a mishap and burn yourself or you know shoot a laser through your thumb, uh, that's not as bad as if you damage your eyes because that would be a lot more permanent. Yeah, it happened, and I'm not going to call him out. I'm not going to call him
I,
out, but there's somebody that has had an accident, and I was wondering if he was going to bring it up, and I'm not going to call him out on
so so I was swapping out my mirrors, replacing a tube, whatever. It was a major overhaul on the CO2 laser, and I was trying to get the mirrors realigned, and I kept hitting
it.
the pulse button, going, "Why am I not seeing a mark?" And then I see this little puff of smoke come up from my jeans, and I was like, "Oh, well, I guess I'm way off the mark there. I'm glad I wasn't holding it down much longer." It's an
Yeah.
unfocused beam, but it'll still tickle.
But yeah, yeah, you got to be careful. Like I said, the eyes are very very delicate when it comes to this stuff. I caught myself today because I was trying to send you pictures of the cooling setup on my laser. I opened the back of it with it engraving, and I was like, oh my gosh! But then I realized I was working over here on the other machine, so I had my glasses on. But it scared me for a minute. I was like, can I still see? But yeah, the Mon port, because I'm not used to opening the back of it, especially while it was running. Oh, Jason told on himself. Jason
Yeah,
was having
well,
an issue with his mirrors last night and got himself a little bit, but
so especially with an unfocused beam that would be coming off that tube in the back, um, typical polycarbonate safety glasses will actually do quite a bit of protection from lasers
yeah,
of the CO2, not diodes. Those will go right through it. But for the CO2s, it'll absorb quite a bit of that, especially unfocused. Not you still want to protect yourself and not be complacent about it and such. But um, yeah, I actually had my eye checkup about a week ago, and I was happy to hear in the past not quite 2 years I've had very little change in my eyes. So wearing the glasses has helped.
I was fixing to say, give it a few years. You're still
Well,
young,
no, I mean we've already talking about the what I'm going to need for bifocals and progressive lenses is that realm, but as far as the actual like any concerns from damage or major changes to my prescription, they haven't. They've actually been more stable the past
yeah.
2 years than they have in a while. But yeah,
Uh, is everything more expensive in Canada? It seems
well,
like it is.
I mean, are we talking U.S. dollars or loonies?
What's it, Looney?
It's a, it's Canadian money. So it's one of
Oh,
their types of Canadian money.
okay. Sheesh. Yeah.
I like to call it funny money.
Yeah, sounds a little funny.
Yeah, Brian, that does not sound fun.
Well, I've been lucky. I'm 47 years old, and if my wife's still in here, she'll tell you I need reading glasses when I'm reading, but I'm still working through that. But other than that, I'm good. Now, I will say, like sometimes reading little small stuff, I have to kind of like wait for my eyes to focus. But so far, so good. Uh, that's why I'm trying to take care of them because I don't need to be blind.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's see. Loonies and Toonies. Oh, see that one. I couldn't. I, we'd have to change the name of that currency if it was called Loonies. All right. Well, I would love to show y'all my new. Well, I got my cameras up there. Forget. I got the Mon port all tricked out and got that guy up and going. And Jason, did you get yours? Did you get yours going last night after, or did you just decide to quit after you had that incident? But Jason was working on his Mon port last night, and I was texting with him trying to help him get the alignment done. And that's when he sent me the picture of where not to have your thumb. But yeah, did you get it going, Jason? I got my chiller hooked up today and got some antifreeze and distilled water put in it, so I'm ready to go now. Ready for the summer, which we'll see how that works. Your guy's 1,000 is our 14. Oh, okay. So apparently there's a big monetary difference up there.
Gotta love the exchange.
Look at there. Troublemaker. Got you. Yeah, I got some money from the UK the other day, and I thought I had something until they deposited it because it transferred. I was like, that's a rip.
Yep.
Ooh, now a CNC gets a piece of your finger. That seems like that'd be worse. That seems like it. That would be a lot worse. Yeah, try to keep your hands where they don't belong.
The laser will cauterize it as it does the damage.
Yeah. And typically speaking, unless you just like sit there and hold it there, I wouldn't think it would penetrate too deep unless it was one of those bigger machines. I don't even want to think about that because I've come close. I came close with the Mon port when I first got it, trying to put the air assist nozzle on it. I came very close because you forget that beam comes across the top of that gantry. And yeah, you just got to make sure you maintain your situational awareness at all times.
Yep.
Well, Chris, how is it down there this morning? I think that's just weird that we're fixing to start getting ready to go to bed, and Chris is just now getting out of the bed on Easter morning over there. I guess isn't it Easter morning, or are you ahead of us, Chris? I just think that's strange. I would like to go to Australia one day.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
They just won't let me carry my guns. And I don't know about going out in there with all those animals.
Well, just don't get into a boxing fight with a kangaroo.
Yeah. Which screw did you got just stripped off, Sharon? Is it going to be the little Phillips head ones that hold the shield on the X tool? I saw somebody else have one of those the other day. They make an extractor, and you got to drill it and then use the extractor to get it out. But I don't.
Good luck with those on some of these screws.
Yeah, some of these screws are very, very small. You would almost need like a magnifying glass to be able to drill the things out.
So I'm wondering, I assume this is on the Pro, the D1 Pro. If you break the shield to get it off, you might be able to get enough bite on the screw with like a pliers to then remove it, and then just got to get a new shield and new new screw to reattach it. I'm not sure if magnets would be able to get attached in the right place or not, but I'd have to look at mine again to see how that if that might work. But
Yeah, you could take and I don't know how that screw would have got stripped. I mean, I guess just taking it on and off. I took mine off one time and haven't put it back on. So I wish I could like give you my shield and screw because I'll never use them again. Brian, I was going to try to do it today and I run out of time because I was doing a video with these with the roller and the Atomstack, but I've got everything done today and hopefully maybe the next day or two I can get a video done. But I've actually got my bed where it raises up and down, got the honeycomb, the air assist, changed out the temperature gauges, got the what they call a chiller, which according to Steve, I haven't opened it up, but according to Steve, it's basically just a radiator cooling apparatus. But it did keep it at 70 degrees and down to all the way down to 68 degrees today. So that was an improvement over the last time I ran it. So
yeah, the 3000 series chillers, they're basically radiators. They're still good because it's a closed system. They've got their own pump. They've got their own temperature monitoring and everything. So that helps. But you don't. It's passive cooling. So it's basically it'll cool it down to ambient temperature and no further. That's the kind of the downfall to them. Some people have hacked them by running the piping through a beer fridge or something like that.
that was my
And
plan.
yeah, no, I mean people do that. Or I've seen. I think yeah, LA Hobby Guy did it through like an ice maker, countertop ice maker kind of thing. To add some active cooling to some of those copper coils and such. But yeah, it's still better. It's still better than the bucket of water and a pump. But you run the risk of if your ambient temperature is really high, then you might not get it cooled down to where they want to run, in that 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 16 to 21 degrees Celsius range. So
Yeah. Well, like I said, if it does become an issue, it is right beside my little refrigerator here. It wouldn't take a whole lot to drill a hole in and drill another hole out and put me, 10 foot of hose inside that thing. That wouldn't be hard to do at all. But yeah, but it's still better than the bucket because when I took the bucket out, it had dead spiders in the bottom of it that had gotten in there somehow. So it's still
yeah,
better than that.
it's hard to keep those sealed up. So
Yeah. Well, I actually one thing that I do want to do to mine, because I have this paranoia that the pump's not circulating the water. So what I'm wanting to do is get me a glass filter to put in line, and I'm going to drop me one of those little plastic BBs in there, so you can see it kind of bouncing around when the water flows around it, as a visual, just to be able to look up and visually know that the water is circulating. Because that's always been, it's like, how do you know? Because the hose, there's nothing to let you know that it's moving.
yeah, I suppose this one doesn't because I was gonna say on my 60 watt it has an integrated flow sensor and
Mm-hmm.
it will prevent you from operate. Well, I mean you can disable it, but it'll prevent you from working the laser. If you send a job to it, it'll start for like a half second go flow detection, uh, and that's a good clue that usually it's I forgot to turn it back on. Um,
But
but yeah, you can get those inline little spinny deals that just go in the hose and it'll give you a visual reference to it.
yeah, one thing too that I found out is you would think this being a Monport chiller that was made to work with the M40, you would think that the plug would plug into the back of the Monport, right? I mean, that's ain't that the way it's supposed to work?
Well, yeah, except for I wouldn't trust much off of those plugs. If you look at the wiring inside these machines, it's pretty under uh,
Well, if it's
under
only, but if
under
it's only a pump and a fan,
underrated.
though, if it's
Yeah.
only a pump and a fan, it's
Um,
not like it's got a lot of load on it.
but these are just
You,
rebranded generics of the real ones. So you know
yeah. Anyway, it
it is
will
what it
it
is.
will work off of the plug in the back. You just have to modify the plug a little bit. Uh, but I got it to work. But they have the 2-pin in the back of the machine, and then it's got a 3-pin for the wall. But if you look at the amp load on that thing, it's not very much. I thought it actually had a compressor in it. Then the more I looked into it, it can't, not with the amperage that it's pulling. It can't have one in there. I think they put the big cable on there just to mislead you.
Well, wish they'd put the big cable inside the machine that you plug other stuff into. That's one of the issues on the larger lasers is people plug in their blower, the air exhaust to it, and it draws way too many amps, and it just the internal wiring is under. They're using too small gauge wire, so
yeah. But so far, it works good. A Sparky check my wiring on before I use the plugs. Well, I look back there, and like I said, so far it's holding up well. I've been running that little pump off of there since Steve told me that that's what those plugs were for. I've been running the little pump off of it for a while, and it hadn't gave me any issues, so that was good. But we're coming up on 2 hours. Any questions? Anybody? Got anything going on? We don't want to stay all night, keep you guys tied up. Comments, concerns, or other?
if you're not in it, we do have our Facebook community group, and that's a good area to go share what you're working on or ask us questions during the week, get some feedback on other things. And so I'll drop that into the main chat as well as mine. Go ahead and join up there. It's been a good group, more people sharing what they're doing, asking questions there as well. So join that, join the conversation there. We do try to moderate it lightly. We want people to be able to share comments and whatnot, but we try to keep some of the just straight selling out there. But that, if you've got something that you're looking to sell and you're also an active member, that's great. But people that come in there just want to ask us to, buy my files or buy a laser from us, we try to keep that out of there. So
yeah, we had the whole drop your logo here thing that I had to delete.
Yeah,
we're trying to keep it. I mean, if you guys know there's a good product or something, and you want to share it with everybody, that's cool. But there's a lot of them in there that it just, what is it they say? Try to be a positive contribution to the group.
Yeah, give more than you take.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, if you hadn't already, guys, give us a thumbs up, like, subscribe, whatever. If you're subscribed to my channel and you haven't subscribed to Steve's, go hit him up. The two of us, if y'all hadn't figured it out, we try to work together. I try to help get him equipment to review so that we can compare our perspectives, because me and Steve, we come from two different trains of thought. And he does more of the analyzing and analytical approach. I'm more kind of the hands-on, does it work, does it not? But between the two of us, if we can both get our hands on it, I think it gives you a really good, well-rounded look at all the ins and outs and pros and cons. And so, if you haven't already subscribed to his channel, go like on his side, subscribe, and do the same on mine, as well as Facebook pages. It helps keep the stuff coming. Because the last 2 or 3 drops, we've both got the same stuff, haven't we? Like Atomstack, we had the ASMR.
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of the same thing from people, which has been nice.
Yeah, and that way we can compare notes and help keep you guys in the loop. MU eggs. Yeah, I need a MU. I looked everywhere. Oh, I'm gonna confess. I looked everywhere for an ostrich or an MU egg to try to get Steve with, since he tried to one up me on my engraving eggs. I couldn't. I even tried to get a goose egg, and unfortunately, I couldn't even find a goose egg. I was going to pay $20 for a MU egg, but I couldn't find anybody that had any. So you got me, Steve. I couldn't come up with an egg in time.
There's one DPI. I think John asked earlier, just circling back on it. What DPI do you run?
What is the factor? Standards 127 is by default. I think on most of my machines is 127, and then it's next is 254. Typically, if if you really want a good, solid, deep burn, the LPI will help make the burn a little deeper, make it a little smoother around the edges. But 127 for wood is generally where I keep mine. I don't go I don't I don't go anything too crazy now with glass, tile, stainless steel, stuff like that. You can actually see a difference sometimes in the engrave if you turn the DPI or LPI, whichever way you look at it, if you turn it up. But typically with wood, I just leave it at that 127 where it comes default. 50 to 60 goose eggs. I wish I had one, but that's a lot. That's a long way to come get one, Chris. But Steve's egg video was it was well played. He got me on that one because he went all out and like dyed his own eggs and everything.
Brian's asking about quality of life. How do you keep people out of your laser area when you're running the laser without enclosure or shield? Um, so I've got a door on my shop. I try to keep that shut, and then I didn't the other day when my wife came down, but uh, I try to keep some of those extra glasses beside there if they do need to come in. Um, so yeah, that any way you can kind of close it off that way. Get creative. You could laser yourself a on air sign that lights up when you're running your laser. But for me, it's also just a sound thing. If I'm doing stuff down here with the lasers and such, I'm often recording as well and closing that door. Our furnace is right outside that door, so I get that kind of just that drone of the motor. So I'm pretty good about closing that door when I need to do that. But and then out in the workshop, it's usually out of the way that they can come to the door and I can run something over to them. But
All right, I don't have one currently, but you can make you one of these that says laser in use, hang it on the doorknob. This is one that this just says baby sleeping. But I made one of these in the beginning. Now my kids they don't even come out here. My kids don't because they're afraid they're going to walk in front of the camera. But yeah, these would work. It hangs over the doorknob and kind of like do not disturb. But just put on there laser being used. But if you forget to do it, like I said, it's best to teach them not to look at the laser. But yeah.
so Troublemaker's asking about diving in with the RA2 rotary first time. I would get yourself a roll of this frog tape and then get yourself where do I have it? If you start with something straight instead of tapered. So I have one of these bottles
Yes.
that's just straight that you can clamp on either end, and then just cover it in the tape. Um, the diode lasers will mark this stuff, and you can just run your tests. Just keep running your tests on there, and if you have to, retape it up. That way, you're not wasting material. And this is a bigger object, so you're going to be able to get more testing out of it. And otherwise, you can always go buy like a curtain rod, cut it up, and just start etching on that. Any sort of larger dowel type thing. But these work well if you can find just a straight bottle and then use tape. Then if you screwed up, you just pull the tape off and do it again until you're comfortable with it. So
I'll tell you how I trained Klein to use his rotary. He drinks Dr. Peppers. I just told him to save a few Dr. Pepper cans, wrap some tape around them, and have fun.
yeah,
Or you can hit
yeah.
them with
So
spray paint. You can actually hit them with spray paint, and they make some pretty good little decorations if you paint them black or whatever. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Soda cans are a good option as well.
but it takes practice. I've learned that. I did those wine glasses today, which it turned out pretty good. I cracked one. Just like I've told people before that when you're engraving with a laser and you're doing glass, I don't know if you've ever had it happen to you, Steve, but I thought it actually shattered. But I was doing this little logo here, and there's a little micro crack in there. I don't know if you can. You got to get the light just right to see it. but it sounded like somebody. There it is. You can barely see it right there, but it sounded like somebody had shot it with a BB gun. So that's ruined, but the engraving worked. That's black spray paint there with the frosting. But this guy did test grids all the way around it, no problems. Went to the second one, and it's sitting there in the chuck turning, and all of a sudden it was like, psh, and I was like ducking for cover because I thought it was going to explode, but it didn't. But it does have that little chip in it. But this video will be out in the next day or two, and that's Sir Mark, and then like I said, that's really high speeds. But this video here, I kind of went up on the LPI, but it had the negative effect with the Sir Mark because it just seems like it's too much heat.
So when doing glass, at least on the CO2, I'd actually run it out of focus just a little bit to try to not over fracture it and give it a little more frosted effect. Something that could possibly try it on diode.
Yeah, like I said, it done really good with the. I don't know if you can see that. It done really good with just the black spray paint. I got a nice smooth, but like I said, this is with the A30, and I was just experimenting. But yeah, the 30 watts I think is what got me. I think it just hit the right spot and
too much power, heated definitely.
It up. So, but anyway, which cable was the wrong one that Acer was sending with the extension kit? Do you know anything about that?
No, I've been hearing a lot of people waiting for they're getting the extension and they're having to wait for the cable to come separately. So I don't know what was.
Well, see, I ordered the extension and mine was right, but I've had it for a while because that's the one I'm running. But yeah, the Coke cans work. Empty spray paint cans. I don't know if I would be doing a whole lot of engraving on one that had a bunch in it, but anything round. I mean, you'd be surprised. Like Steve said, go get yourself a dowel, like a 1-inch dowel, and cut you some pieces off. And like I said, the whole tape thing works pretty good.
This one's fancy.
Classic.
It's poplar and it's multicolored.
Yeah, well, I saw a rolling pin at Walmart earlier for $3. I started to buy it just to use it in a video one day, but I'd already had a buggy full of stuff. But yeah, Klein was engraving Dr. Pepper cans last night, all night until he got the bugs worked out of it. The V35. That's what they're saying. Is the V35 is having that they're sending the wrong cables with it, probably.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I don't know that I want to spend $500 on a chiller right now. I'll engineer myself a kegerator or something before I spend $500 right now.
So, yeah, I mean, maybe for the K40 I wouldn't, but on my CO2 laser, I tried to go the cheap route. Went with an aquarium chiller, which then it doesn't have its own reservoir, or it doesn't have its own pump. So I had to have another 5-gallon pail, and that would circulate it through. I eventually caved and just went, I want the chiller because on the larger unit, I could lock that temperature in. It stayed, and it's sealed. It's all one unit. So I think that's the thing is if you're getting serious with the CO2 machine, you're going to end up getting a legit, 5,000 or 5,200 chiller and being done with it.
Oh yeah, I don't have one of those big boy machines like you do. Oh, let's see. Acer Air Assist squilling. I haven't had that problem. Squilling sounds like either a belt slipping or a dry bearing, one of the two. But either one, I don't think is going to be great for Air Assist. You may want to see if they'll take that thing back. Can you put? No, I don't guess they don't require any kind of oil or anything. They shouldn't because that would be counterproductive.
So some of these, like you can actually take these apart and clean them a bit. I haven't looked at the Acer one, but I know like the X-Tool one is prone to getting clogged up and dirty. So that I'd have to look at mine. but no, I guess it is right over here. There are some screws on the one panel.
Yeah, there's screws on the back panel, but I've never taken them off. Which I didn't run this one, but for like a week, and then I went to Shop Air. So, uh, yeah, I don't know what all's in there, but a squeaking noise was definitely not supposed to be happening. I wouldn't think. There's some screws under the bottom too that's got to come off. It looks like it slides out. So, yeah, that would probably be a whole video. That looks like a job. My Acer air assist mount.
Should maybe just compare it to the Atomstack one you got, see how the noise compares. Because I think I'm trying to remember.
That could be your culprit right there. There's a little micro PC fan right there in the bottom. I'm guessing that's for cooling the pump. And if you're hearing a constant squealing, check that fan and make sure that it doesn't have a bunch of debris in it or anything, because that little micro PC fan would make a squeal if it got obstructed. But yeah, that would be my first thought would be, does it do it when does it go up and down when you turn the volume of the air up and down, or does it stay constant? Because if it's in the mechanics of the pump, it's going to get louder or quieter when you turn the throttle up and down. But if it's that little fan, it's going to pretty much stay the same throughout. Depends on the color of the pigment and the aluminite. Yeah, Mark. I'm just saying, as far as like testing circles and stuff like that, a lot of times with like if you're talking about the cans, you can see good enough to tell if you're actually making circles or if you're making eggs or whatever. And if you hit them with some spray paint, you can really tell, or some frog tape. But yeah, I'm thinking it's probably the fan. I'd like to know if it's constant or if it goes up and down with the airflow. Put that back where it goes. All right, guys, 2 hours and 7 minutes. We have officially came to the end of our live, I believe. Unless somebody's got something really important you need to get out. But like Steve said earlier, if you hadn't already, go check out our Laser Engraver community page. I believe I have a link up here that we can throw up. Well, that's the name of the group. And I did actually update my link, so it just Laser Engraving Community. But yeah, if you hadn't already, like, subscribe, follow, thumbs up, all that good stuff. But I'll look at that video and see. Oh, okay. I was wondering. I didn't know if you were talking to me or not. But I'll, if you hadn't already, go check those pages out. If you hadn't subscribed to myself or Steve, please do. It helps with a lot of things, guys. Like I said, when I started this channel, I really didn't expect for it to get to this point, but it is kind of cool being able to check this equipment out and pass on information to y'all. And I know there's several people in the group that can vouch that me and Steve will do what we can to help you troubleshoot your machine, unless you get rude with us, and then we'll stop. But that's we enjoy that. No, Brian actually even talked my wife into telling Steve his beard looked nice. So Brian is definitely at it tonight. But what Brian doesn't know is she doesn't really care for beards. She don't even like me growing this little scruff. But I can't. My face is too ugly to not have hair on it, guys. I can't uncover it.
I threatened to shave mine off, and I get the evil eye from my wife. So
if I threatened to shave mine off, she'd go get my razor for me. So I'm not going to do that. But anyway, thanks, guys. Appreciate you. What did he say? No, I actually did grow it out. But see, okay, let me let you in on something, Brian. I don't know if you can see the hair on the back. My hair gets about that long. It does this, okay? That's not what you want right here, okay? You don't want curly right here. It just don't look right. So I just keep my scruff just enough. I'm gonna grow it out just for just because I'm gonna look like Colonel Sanders and have me that little thing. All right, guys. Well, y'all be good. Appreciate you, troublemaker. And before we go, we'll throw that up there. But y'all have a good night. And well, wait a minute, wrong one. I missed a compliment. There you go. There it is. That's everybody talks about Steve's beard. So appreciate y'all for coming. Thank you. And we'll see y'all next Sunday. And until then, guys, be safe. Watch your fingers, Jason. And have a good night.
We'll see.